All right, YouTube, the plan for today is to give you guys a tour of two of the systems that we have down here in the lower part of the farm. Behind me is a third system. I mentioned this one in the last video. This is my first ever syntropic food forest install that I've done personally here on the farm. I've worked on some others on other farms, but this is the first one here. So I'll talk a little bit about that one at the end of the video, but I want to make a longer video about that one, showing you guys a little bit of the install and talking about it in depth. For now, we're going to make our way a little bit further down this way and show you guys a system focused on banana. So this was an area that a year ago, or basically since we had first gotten to this farm. Also, by the way, check out this banana. It totally just broke in the middle. I've never seen this before. Got a hefty rack on it, so we'll have to take care of that, but it just broke this morning. But yeah, the system we're walking to now, it used to just have these massive trees in there. It was completely shaded out, so we didn't really have much thought at all of putting any sort of garden there. It was just a little beautiful, nice, shady, cool area, a natural habitat for a bunch of birds. But what happened was, about 9 months ago, we had a bunch of storms, and a very, very big tree fell right on top of the lot, that little parcel of land. It broke a couple trees, and my brother decided to cut down the rest, to prune them all down. So I wasn't here at the time, but basically his thought was he could use this area to plant a bunch of bananas. So I'm gonna swing you around and show you guys what kind of bananas inspired him to do so. So here are these short, cute little bananas my brother absolutely loves, and we really only have this little clump of bananas and then another somewhere else on the farm closer to his house. But in terms of this variety, there's not much, so the idea was to propagate that out. Basically what we did is we used all of the trunks from the trees that were here, we chopped them up, we put them into these rows, and then we've got bananas. Here's a banana right here. Almost all of this variety, but there was only so many pups, so many babies of that type of banana, so we also have others mixed in here. I think the red bananas that we have on the farm have also been put here as well. Those are super cool. But yeah, so there's bananas every about 3 meters or so, 2.5, 3 meters. In the middle, we have nacerero, and then in between, we've got malanga cocoa. So this one forms a nice little ball, absolutely delicious. Should be ready to harvest in a few months, hopefully. They haven't been growing super well. I think they could use some more light, but there's also another problem that we have with this system that I'll talk about very shortly. But yes, we have these rows. They are kind of neat because they curve a little bit with the shape of this little valley that we're in here. There's also a hill right there, and then the mountain goes up here. So we're in a little bit of a valley, as you can see here as well. To get in, it's a little bit of a hill. So we did rows. Now the thought was for it to be like everything would have plants in it, but I was only here for a few days when we installed this, and it was back to work at the other farm that I was working at, and things have just been hectic ever since. So as of right now, we only have these rows with plants in them, and these as well. I'm thinking at this point the inner rows probably won't get planted out for a little while, but some ideas for the future is that this could be parts where we grow cacao or coffee, some sort of low light plant that can survive and thrive under the canopy of what will soon be very big bananas, as big as those over there. They'll just be covering this whole area. There'll be some decent shade in some parts, so we're going to want to find something that's going to do well in the lower light conditions. But yeah, so the plan was just bananas, then we did the rows. And then I know we needed to get some more biodiversity in here, so I got some nacerero and some Mexican sunflower as well. 2 support species that will help to photosynthesize more in this plot of land, to get more soil biology and goodies going in there, and also for biomass to prune and use as mulch. And then in between the bananas, like you saw, we have the malanga. Now, it's very variable how things are going here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows right now, and then there will be a 5th eventually back there. We have 1 more spot, but basically this whole side here gets completely inundated with water when it rains too much. So the mountains here and the spring for my brother's house for his water supply is like right over there, and then when it overflows, it goes down this way It eventually also goes down that way and goes into some drainage ditches, some really big ones that go across the farm. But here, it seeps through and it soaks this soil completely. So what we need to do is build some drainage ditches, because I think that where it's too much water, where it's really inundating, I think the plants are suffering. But yeah, we got plenty of spots where you need to put more stuff, more bananas where they didn't work out. And there's so much more density and diversity that I want to put into play here. I'd love to get some tall trees that grow above the bananas, another canopy layer. And then hopefully as time moves on, also adding some more grafted fruit trees and all sorts of stuff, just to make this a little bit more of a diverse, regenerative, self-sufficient ecosystem here. But we're looking pretty good. It's about time for a prune. These Mexican sunflowers are huge. They're almost all about ready for their first chop. And then we'll have tons of biomass here. That'll be nice to help give these bananas some extra love. But you can see here, this row, the last row that we have, this row never gets water when it gets too wet. It never gets inundated, never gets flooded. And it seems to be doing the best by far. So it could be because of the water, it could be for whatever other reason. Maybe the soil there's a little bit better, maybe it gets better sun exposure, who knows. But my guess is that the water plays a big part, a big role. But look at this, just massive Mexican sunflower. The bananas are looking pretty big. I think this row is absolutely beautiful. What's neat though is that the bananas are doing really well, the Mexican sunflower is doing really well, but the malanga is not. And I couldn't tell you why. I'm excited to give these plants some more light when we do a big prune, but I think it's a little bit more complex than that. I just haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, here is the banana system. And then behind us here, we have a hill. Now on this hill, there are a bunch of Madero Negro stakes. So this is Gliricidia. So a very well-known tree in the whole agroforestry world, especially here in the tropics in Latin America. So this is commonly used in cacao plantations to offer some shade to the cacao plants, but it is a nitrogen fixer. It grows really well from cuttings, and yeah, all around an awesome support tree. Now the idea here with all of these Gliricidias, we're going to eventually put black pepper. That is the idea. So much like this unwanted vine here, eventually the black pepper will climb up, and yeah, that'll be delicious. Some homegrown black pepper, unbelievable, gonna be really nice. This one looks like it's dead, so we have to do some replanting of those. I've been slowly adding some Mexican sunflower here as well, just trying to cover this area with as much life as possible. But yeah, I'll get a little top view here. Looking good. So there'll be plenty of content in the future about trying to find ways to improve this system. I'll take any suggestions I can get. We're gonna have to do some drainage ditches, think of some more plants we can add, really bump up the density and diversity. And of course, do our routine management to get this place pumping. That is the goal. And soon enough, we'll be harvesting malanga, maybe make some malanga chips or a nice stew. And then as well, bananas galore. That's the plan. But now it is time to go on to system 2. We'll take a quick pause here. Pretty nice little landscape shot. So here we are at what we call the invernadero. So this used to have a plastic tarp on it when we got here. This is where they used to do some pretty hardcore veg production where they would sell at a local market in town. Since then, as you can tell, the roof has come off. Has gone through a couple cycles of plants, but for the most part has been a little bit neglected, has not been put to the best use possible. But while there's not too much going on this side here, if we zoom in, yeah, look at that. And that is where we are headed. So that has been my own little fun project. Didn't take too much time, just a little bit of work to try and revamp at least one half of this garden here. To start making the most of the space, produce some stuff that we can eat, and yeah, have some fun with it, learn some more about different guilds, different plant combos. But basically, the situation is, this, before I started renovating it, had an attempt at replanting some veggies, but for the most part, they did not do well. They failed. They were dying on us. And aside from that, yeah, it's been kind of stagnant. Now what there was here and is still here are a bunch of really cool papayas. So I'm gonna swing you around now, show you what's going on here. All right, so there's 4 rows on this side of the greenhouse of the invernadero. I shouldn't call it a greenhouse, it's just a garden now with some metal around it. But the outside rows have papayas, spaced decently close, probably every like 4 meters or so, and a bunch of different varieties that my brother got from all over the world, really. Some Hawaiian stuff, some Puerto Rican stuff. Here we've got a girl already producing fruit. I just ripped her leaf, I'm sorry. There's also quite a few males in here that are not going to be giving us fruit, but at least they'll help to cross-pollinate, and we'll get some new farm authentic strains soon enough. But yeah, here's what we're working with. Now let's talk a little bit about what's going on in this beautiful flower-filled garden. So basically, step number 1 was to clear out everything that was in here aside from the papayas, just cutting out all of the veg that wasn't doing well, getting rid of the weeds. And then after that, adding a little bit of amendments, just some calcium and some rock dust, and then retilling the beds. Just the 2 in the middle, the beds with the papaya we did not till. I didn't want to mess with the roots of the established trees. And then we planted our small little, very basic consortiums here. In this bed here, we did beans, lots and lots of black beans right from the store, the kind that you would buy just to eat, super cheap, but they germinate really well. And so on the side of the bed, on both sides of the bed, it was just layered in beans. And then in the middle, we had a consortium or a mix of annual Mexican sunflower, which actually came up on its own from being here in the past, pigeon pea, sunflower, some more beans. And then in this bed here, we had the same kind of mix of plants going down the middle, but then instead on the sides, we had sun hemp. And so here we are now, a few months later, looking absolutely beautiful. Let's take a step inside, show you what's going on. We are just about at the pinnacle of life in here. It's looking really good. Sunflowers galore. It was a huge mix of sunflower, just all of the seeds we had mixed together and planted about every 75 centimeters to a meter or so. And they came up pretty good. The cool thing too is that we've had very little rain. In the past 2 months, we just had a few days where we got 8 inches of rain, which is a pretty considerable amount. But aside from that, it's been hot and dry. And yet this system has been doing really well. Here you can already see, with some bugs, the seeds starting to mature in the back there. Soon enough, these will be harvestable. We'll leave them to dry for a bit longer. And then, ooh la la, sunflower butter if we have enough. If not, just some sneaky snackers. Looking good. So yeah, in terms of the management of this system, it's been very simple and easy thanks to the density that it was planted in. There was a complete mat of green when both of these were young and everything was just starting to get established. Then in this system here, I pruned out all of the beans just to save the nice healthy ones or the best looking ones. And then we trellised them up. Really simple. There's just line going all the way down both sides of the bed and then line going down to each bean plant. And now, as you can see here, they're starting to produce, looking good. Take a little crunch of this. And then there was also a little bit of thinning that happened in the center rows, but not too much. I've let just about all of the pigeon pea do its thing. The sunflower, of course, crushing it. And the idea here is that when this sunflower is done and these beans are done, we're still gonna have the pigeon pea, which is getting pretty big. We'll thin it to save only the best looking ones, probably every 50 centimeters to a meter. And those are gonna be our longer lived perennials here in these beds that hopefully one day will produce beans, but more than anything, they're here to improve the soil conditions. We can plant stuff on either side of them. We can give the pigeon pea a drastic prune to let more light in, but they are here to stay at least for a little while, just to help really pump some good life into the soil, get some nice deep roots. Now for this side, it's the same. The sun hemp flowered and then it was cut back and eventually taken out of the system. All of it was placed right under here. You can see here the very dry, degrading stems of the sun hemp feeding the soil. And we also have pigeon pea in the middle, which will stay when the sunflower goes. Very nice. Absolutely filled with flowers. I love it. It's a vibrant place to walk through every day. You've also got all of the beautiful yellow blooms from the sun hemp and the papaya rose. But there you go. So two pretty simple systems. All could use some complexification, but small steps. We're learning more as we go, learning what consortiums and combinations of plants really work, finding out what wants to grow here and what we enjoy growing. It's cool just looking at all these flowers, got me stoked. Now for a quick little couple of words about the medicinal system. So here we are, the Copic System. Just a little bit of a teaser here. She's about 2 months old now, I want to say, maybe a little bit less. I'll have to check the dates. But basically, we've got around 180 square meters, give or take. And we have 5 tree rows. And then each tree row has 2 biomass rows, a Mexican sunflower row, and a sun hemp, soon to be Mombasa grass row. Except for the tree rows in the end, they only have 1. Poor girls. But yeah, a huge diversity. I shouldn't say huge, but a pretty decent diversity of plants in here. The target crop or the focus crop in the tree rows is moringa. I'll show you guys one over here. This row doesn't have the best, but they're somewhere. We have, oh, my fan favorite, the pigeon pea, love her to death. So here's a little baby moringa, struggling a little bit, right next to a guaje or a leucaena, beautiful tree. We have some chiplin with edible leaves, canavalia or jack bean, doing great things for the soil, nacerero, love that plant. But here you go, here's a bit of a healthier moringa. Planted a bunch of seeds in each location for the moringa. We still haven't thinned them out, letting nature decide which of them is best suited for these conditions. Now this was already here. This is a cashew tree. Very cool. It was chopped down for whatever reason. I wasn't here when it happened. It might have fallen down, I can't remember, but no worries. It is sprouting back with vigor. Eventually one day we'll have our own farm fresh cashew. We've also got 2 rows in between each of the tree rows where we have medicinals. So right now, a lot of holy basil, 2 types. There's also some calendula. You can see the flowers over there. They're not doing great though. We have a big pepper bush there that the birds planted for us. Very cool. There used to be 2 papayas as well, but then the weather took them down. And here's the last tree row. So there you go. So instead of 2, you got 3. There's 3 systems for you. And just recently I installed a small little part of the 4th system, another syntropic food forest. Content about that will be coming soon. But yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, cheers.